Hello everyone. Today we're gonna make this beautiful pink and white dress. The usual patterns are either bows or flowers or something like that. I wanted something different, so I made these little diamond squares. These are the squares. And then I continued with my work with the granny stitch, very simple stitch to make. I then made this little decoration. It's not a pocket, it's just a sewn on decoration. And openings at the shoulders, so there are no struggles of getting this dress over baby's head. My measurements are appropriate for 6 months old baby, and I have 25 centimeters across chest or 10 inches, and then my length is 13, maybe half inches, and 34 centimeters. So that would be appropriate for a 6-month-old baby. I enjoyed making this dress, very easy, very simple. And for this project, I used Coboo yarn by Lion's brand, and it is a weight 3 yarn. Recommended hook size is, I would see it if I put my glasses on. Recommended hook size is 4 millimeters, which is what I used. So I used 4 millimeter crochet hook. You can barely see it. I don't know why they make it like this, but it is 4 millimeter crochet hook. There's 100 grams per yarn ball, but I used maybe a third of it. And for the pink yarn, I bought this on Amazon. Can't remember where from, but it's also weight 3 yarn. Each ball is 50 grams, and I used 3.5 approximately for this dress. You will also need darning needle, a pair of scissors, measuring tape, and a bunch of stitch marker. So without further ado, let's begin. We're going to start with a magic circle. Just a quick review. So go and cross the yarns so they're kind of over one another. Insert your hook under, pull up that loop. Now grab the working yarn, chain 1 to secure everything. And now we're going to chain 2 more, which will be actual double crochet, counts as a double crochet. So our sequence is 4 times 3 double crochets and chain 1. So this is 3 double crochets, chain 1, 3 double crochets, chain 1. So we're making these little squares, and as you can see, I weaved in all my tails. I left the one that I'm going to be, actually I can cut it right now. And we need 2, 4, 6, 8 of these, and I got 7 already, and I need 1 more. So do 2 more sets, 3 double crochets, chain 1, and we'll join the round together. So I got 4 sets, 1, 2, 3, and 4. Don't forget to chain 1 at the end. Now pull on this central strand and close the circle, and we're going to slip stitch to the top of chain 3. So 1, 2, 3, slip stitch right in there. And now we want to get to this empty space here, which is the chain 1 space, but we also want to change the color. I'm going to slip stitch 1 more time into the back loop of the next stitch, and then I'm going to go under both loops and bring in my white yarn. All right, I'm going to slip stitch one more time into that chain one space. To secure my yarn and not worry about it later, I'm going to chain one for a double crochet, flip my tail over the yarn, chain second time, and then flip my tail back to the front and chain one more time. So that way I secured my white yarn and I don't have to worry about that tail at the end. All right, the important thing is we're going to have to carry the pink yarn with us until the end of the round. So do my pink yarn is here, place it sort of on top of the stitches and do 2 more double crochets, all the while working over that pink yarn, and 1 more double crochet. Now chain 1, and into that same space we're going to add 3 more double crochets. So we actually made a corner of our mini granny. 2 and then 3. So my pink yarn goes with me. I'm skipping 3 and into the chain 1 space I am putting another corner. So 3 double crochets, chain 1 and 3 double crochets. We're going to repeat this 4 times total in this row. So chain 1 and 3 more double crochets. Make sure your pink yarn travels with you. Go to the next chain 1 space. Repeat this. And this way we don't have to cut the yarn and weave in a lot of ends at the end because we're hiding or carrying the yarn with us. 2 and then 1 more. We're going to slip stitch to the top of chain 3. So this is 1, 2 and this is 3. I'm going to make sure that I go with my pink yarn on top of my hook, and then sort of trapping it, we're going to slip stitch. I'm going to slip stitch one more time into the back loop of the next stitch, and then under both loops of the next stitch. At this point I'm going to switch yarns. Making sure that my white yarn now is on top of my stitches, and slip stitch into this chain 1 space. We can now chain 3 and do our corner. So 3 double crochets, chain 1 and 2 double crochets, and we're going to change the color with the third one. So go only half double crochet, let go of your pink yarn, pull the white yarn up, and pull through the last 2 loops on your hook. Make sure that your pink yarn is on top of your stitches, and do 3 or 2.5 double crochets, I should say, with white. So that's 2, and then we're going to do only half, and we're going to switch the yarns again. So bring up the pink yarn to finish your granny, and now we're going to go over the white yarn into the next chain 1 space and do the corner. Before we finish the corner or put in the third double crochet, we're going to switch yarns again. So this is 2 and 1 more, only 2 half. Switch yarns, bring up the white yarn and finish your double crochet. Make sure pink yarn is on top of your stitches and do 2.5 double crochets. And again, bring up your pink yarn to finish the double crochet. And now, working over your white yarn, do the corner. And switch the yarns again. And we will now slip stitch at the top of chain 3, making sure that our white yarn is trapped in that stitch. And that's the end of our little mini granny. So you need 8 of these, and when I finish, or when you finish your 8, I'll meet you again and we'll continue our beautiful project. Just love these colors. To sew the pieces together, you will need a darning needle, and I'm using pink yarn only because I have more pink than white at the seam side. And we need to line them up so each side has chain 1 space. So this is my chain 1 stitch. Then there are 3 pink double crochets, then 3 white, 3 pink, and then this is my chain 1 space. So on this end, we're going to be grabbing these back loops, these guys here, and on this end, we're also going to be grabbing these bottom loops, and the needle will always go from top down. So to start, I am going to find my chain 1 space right here. I know this is my chain 1 stitch. Only to secure the yarn, I'm going to go from bottom up, grabbing only that back loop. Leave yourself about a couple of inches of yarn. And now this is what we're going to do for the rest of the stitches. We're going to grab the back loop going from top down. Now we're going to match this on the other side. So we're going to go from bottom up on this corner stitch. This is our chain 1 space. So grab that bottom loop and then go through the next stitch into the back loop right here. You don't have to bring them all the way close together. So now we worked in this stitch. I'm going to go into the next stitch and work into that back loop. And now go to the next side. We worked in this stitch, so we're going to go into this loop. And our third pink yarn double crochet. And the third pink yarn double crochet on the other side, only at the bottom loops. And this is the first white yarn double crochet and the bottom. And then we're going to go into this chain 1, the back loop, and on the other side also chain 1. So 1, 2, 3 stitches. This is our chain 1. Go here, just kind of drop the needle on the side. Now find that little tail that you start with and gently pull in opposite directions for as long as you see these pink yarn pieces visible. And that is that. So we're going to weave in the ends at the end, but for right now we got them all, well, most of them connected. I have one more square left, so I'm going to do that and meet you off the camera. To connect the two ends together, same procedure. So I'm going to start with the chain 1 space, and only this time go from the bottom up and leave a little bit of a tail, maybe a couple of inches, and grab your first stitch, and then on the other side we're going to find that chain 1 space, which is right here. I'm going to go from the bottom up only this time, and then grab that first stitch and begin my sewing together. So this is the second of the pink yarn and second of this pink shell. I did my 3 stitches on each side, so 1, 2, 3, and here I have 1, 2, 3. So this is my chain 1 space, and I'm going to go into that back loop on this side and find that chain space on the other side and go through the back loop of that chain 1. Grab your ends and pull. So what's left now is weaving in all these ends. I did some, so I'm going to continue this off camera. Weave in here or here because we're going to be working over those tails. So that's going to decrease the amount of time you need to go back and forth. I sewed them all. I left a little bit of a yarn so I know where I need to work over the little tails just to make them further secured. I'm going to attach my pink yarn now and tie it on. I'm going to go over my tail as I chain 3, so 1, 2, and 3, and into that same space. That was a chain 1 space, by the way. Chain 3, and now continue with granny stitches all around in each empty space. So at each end of mini square we're gonna put one cluster. So right here where we see the corner in this space here, we're gonna put a cluster. And we will do the same on the other side. So here is our cluster or corner stitch. So in the middle here we're going to put a cluster. So continue this until the end of the row, and I'll show you how to join the rounds. We'll do one more corner clusters together. So this is a corner stitch. We find that middle space, and into that space we put cluster. Moving on to the next corner stitch. So here is the 3 double crochet, chain 1 space and 3 double crochet. So in chain 1 space we're going to add a cluster, and I'll see you at the end of this row. To join the round, we will slip stitch to the top of chain 3, so 1, 2, and 3. I have my little tail in there, so it's a bit harder to find. There you go. And now into the same space, kind of flip your hook around. So chain 2 and then add 2 more double crochets and continue with granny stitches all the way around. So we're going to make some decreases throughout our work for this dress. So if I assume that this is my side when I start and begin, I want my seam to be on the side of the dress. Then my next decrease should happen here. So I'm going to stitch mark this. And so we slip stitch into this space here, and then we're going to chain 3. Our next stitch should be here, which is the middle stitch of the 3 double crochets from the previous row, and our third stitch will be here in this space, so double crochet. So we sort of spread one granny 3 double crochet cluster over 2 spaces. So let's continue until we get to the other end with our granny shells or stitches until the next stitch marker. So I'm almost at the stitch marker. So if this is my middle, I want to do the decrease over these 2 spaces. So my first double crochet will be in this space here. My second one will be at the top of the second double crochet in the middle of this granny shell. And my third one will be right here in this space where the stitch marker is. I suggest you leave the stitch marker in so that we know where we last decreased in case we need to decrease some more. So let's do this now, granny stitches or shells, clusters till the end of the row, and then we'll finish our decreases in the next row. At the end of the row we have 2 double crochets kind of together in the third one in the next space, so we're going to slip stitch to the top of chain 3, and now we're going to go here again and double crochet or do granny here and granny here. So we basically skipped 2 spaces below. Now make sure that you don't go and do the cluster here. Do the cluster here just because before the next shell. So do grannies until you reach the stitch marker. I'm at my decrease again, so I'm going to put a shell here before these 3 spread out stitches. And then again after the 3 spread out stitches, another shell. So I'm at the end of the row, and I'm going to slip stitch to the top of chain 3. So when we started, we have 32 granny stitches or clusters, and with these couple of increases that we did, 1 on each end, we now have 30. Let's do 3 more rows like this with 30, and then we're going to decrease 1 more time. So we started with the decrease here. We already have one row, because we do decrease over 2 rows. So we have 1 row, we need 2 more rows, and then we're going to do decrease over the 2 rows. I did my 3 rows, and so now we're going to increase again, and we're going to do that 3 more times. So each time we're going to do increase for 2 rows, and then 3 rows, and then increase for 2 rows, and so on. So let's do that 3 more times. So if you noticed also, this is the point where I started, right here, and now we shifted because we're not turning our work every round. So I'm going to correct that as well. So I'm going to do the increase here and then move my yarn over to the middle again and the next round, or after my increases are done. So to look for our increase, it's a quite difficult task. So if you can find it, it's right here. So this is where we did our increase, and on the opposite side it's right here. Right. Okay, so let's do our decrease, and like I said, adjust your yarn or the beginning or the end of it as you need to. So I am going to chain 2, and get to the point where I need to do my increase. Which is here. So I'm gonna do 1 double crochet here in this space, then 1 double crochet into that middle of the shell, and then 1 more double crochet into the next space. So that's that. Now continue with your regular clusters until you get to the next marker. And that's gonna be here. So this is our first increase. I'm gonna do my increase here around this shell. So it's gonna be 1 double crochet in this space, 1 double crochet into this middle stitch of the shell, and then 1 double crochet here. And then the next round we just do shells around. I'll show you that one more time. At my next stitch marker, I will put 1 double crochet into the next space, 1 double crochet into the marked stitch, and 1 double crochet into the next space between the 2 clusters. And now continue regular cluster stitches till the end of this row. So slip stitch to the top of chain 3, back into that same space, chain 2, so skip these 3 stitches and cluster in this space. And now continue shells. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the stitch marker here. So the increase was here. So I'm going to put my stitch marker here to After this round, I am going to cut my yarn, join the sides, and then I will cut the yarn and then reattach my yarn here. It's going to continue shifting, so you're going to have to do this after every maybe 4 to 5 rows. So let's talk about decreases. You can see that our dress is tapering slightly. So our first decrease was right here. So you can see the 3 separated double crochets, and we finished the decrease in the following row. Then we crocheted 1, 2, 3 rows, and then we did the decrease and finished that in the following row. Now I'm getting ready after this row. This is my 3rd row. I'm going to do 2 rows of decrease. Then after that, 3 more rows regular shells and 2 more rows of decreases. So 7 rows. Mark each time you decreased so that you know where your decrease row finished, and then count 1, 2, 3 full rows before you do 2 rows of decreases. Let's do some measurements. So I'm just going to count my decreases. So the first decrease was right here. So that's 1, 2, 3, and 4. So I ended up with 4 decreases. And if you count your rows in total, so where you see the last white stitch, that means that still belongs to our square. So we start counting from here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, and 18 rows. So this is what our dress looks like. So it's nicely tapered in. So now we're going to start working on the top part, which is chest and shoulder. And as far as measurements, I would like my dress to be around 35 centimeters or 14 inches. So we are here. We have about 5 more inches to go, but I am going to add a little bit of a couple of rows here. So let's say we need 13 inches height to the top of shoulder. That means we have 4 inches left to work for the shoulder part and the chest part. And as far as width, I am at 31 centimeters, which is corresponding to 12 inches. And then the chest will be 10 inches or roughly 16 centimeters. So we are now going to break our yarn or finish here. I'm going to start the chest. So I already chained 1. I am going to pull my yarn and cut. Right here. So pick which side will be your front or which side will be your back. We're going to start with the front, and to do the front we are going to remove our stitch markers first, and I am going to weave in my tail, and then we can start the chest part. So I counted my stitches, and I have in total 24 clusters. So mark the space between the 2 side clusters, and it's easy to find. Just kind of follow where you started. And so I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12 shells, and then I put the stitch marker, and then I have, starting from here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and then the stitch marker. So from our stitch markers, we are going to start working a shell after and a shell before. So I'm going to mark those two shells. So one here, so that's our one shell, and I'm gonna move this stitch marker so I have two shells right here. I'm going to do the same on the other side with the marker. So now we have the two shells that we're not going to be working because we are going to be working in our front, and this is going to be our back. So to start working on the front, we are going to tie our yarn and chain 3, and then we're going to put one more double crochet in that space, and now continue with granny stitches or clusters until we reach the other side. I'm at the other stitch marker, so I'm going to repeat what we did on the other side. So I'm going to put 2 double crochets in this space. So now chain 3 and turn your work. Into this very first opening, we're going to put a full granny square stitch, so 3 double crochets, and move on to the other side. I did my last shell into this space, and now on the top of chain 3 I am going to double crochet, so our ends match. 1 double crochet and a shell, 1 double crochet and a shell. Now chain 3, and again turn your work. This time we're going to put additional double crochet in here, and then we're going to move on to the next space and do our full granny stitch. So you're going to repeat this sequence, so it's going to be 1 double crochet at the end or the beginnings, alternating with 2 double crochets. So when you if you end the row with 2 double crochets, then the next row will be 1 double crochet and a full shell right after. If you end the row with 1 double crochet, then the next row will be 2 double crochets and then the regular grannies to this first space. So repeat this. We already have 1, 2, 3 rows. We need, after this third row, 2 more, so total of 5 rows. 1, 2, 3. We need 2 more after this row. I'm at the end of the row 5 of the chest panel, so I'm gonna add 1 double crochet into this space and then double crochet into the top of chain 3. Okay, we now need to separate the stitches or the shells for the neck opening. So in total we have, I'm only counting the full shells, not the partial. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. So 1, 2 shells, place a stitch marker. And then count these 2 full shells and place the stitch marker. So this here will be our neck opening. Okay, we need to chain 3 and turn our work. So into this very first space we are going to shell, and one more, move on to the next space and do a full shell, and into this space that we put the marker in we are going to do 1 double crochet, and we are going to place another double crochet right here into this last stitch. I'm going to remove the marker. So right into this last stitch. So this is our shell 1, 2, and 3. So into this last stitch we are going to put 1 double crochet, chain 3, and turn your work. Into that very first space we're going to put a full shell, and another one here, into the last space we are going to put 1 double crochet and 1 more into the top of chain 3, chain 3, turn your work, and remember we said we alternate, so this was 2 double crochets, so that means this one's going to be only 1 double crochet. Into this very first space we're going to do a full shell, and into this space we're going to put 1 double crochet and a double crochet into the top of chain 3. So far we have 1, 2, 3 rows. So we got our 3 rows, 1, 2, and 3. If you have another ball of yarn, I would suggest keep this one on by only putting a stitch marker onto your thread, onto your yarn, so it doesn't unravel, and then we're going to start on the other side. To start on the other side we're going to have to start from the wrong side, because that's what we did here. So this is the stitch from the wrong side, this is from the right side. So I'm going to flip my work and I'm going to remove this stitch marker, and I attached my yarn into the very last shell. So this is 1, 2, 3 stitches, and into the third stitch I attached my yarn. So chain 3, and if you look at this side we started with a stitch in that last shell and then 1 double crochet into this space here, so we're going to match that. Now we're going to make our 2 regular shells, and because we have 2 double crochets here that means we only need 1 at the top of that chain 3 to finish this row. Chain 3, turn your work, and now here in this row below we have 1 double crochet, which means that now we need to have 2. So add 1 more double crochet into that space and then do your 2 regular cluster stitches. And because we have 2 double crochets here, that means that we're going to add 1 double crochet at the end of this row. So now we have 2 rows. We will chain 3 and do our last row. So at the end of this row, you can place the stitch marker in that stitch and cut yourself a tail, couple 3 inches. Pull up that stitch marker and we're gonna start here where we left off. If you need to reattach the yarn, then do so, that's fine. So we're gonna chain 1 and turn our work into that very first stitch. We are going to single crochet and single crochet to the end. So this is our 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. We're gonna find that top of chain 3 and put our 9th single crochet. Now we're gonna chain 1, turn our work sideways, and into this very space we're gonna put 1 more single crochet and then 1 more into the stitch, and then another one somewhere in here. Oops. In here. So into this opening here, 1 and then 2. Remove that stitch marker. And now we're at the arm opening. So this is what we have so far. So let's slip stitch into this first stitch, chain 1, and we're gonna continue single crochet until we get here to this stitch marker. So I'm almost to my stitch marker. So in this last stitch we want to repeat what we did on this side. So we actually added a double crochet and another double crochet into the first space, continued working into our shell. So here I'm going to put my last single crochet and then grab this little strand here, the first loop. So there are 2 loops here, so grab this one here, pull that loop up and do another single crochet. So that's my double crochet, and then I'm going to put a double crochet here into this first space, remove my marker, and now start your shells until you get to the next stitch marker, and then I'll show you what needs to be done on the other side. So I've come to my stitch marker, so in this space I will put 1 double crochet and remove the marker, and then into this last stitch of this 3 double crochet shell here I will put a double crochet, chain 3, turn your work. Now we have 2 double crochets, we only have 1 here, so in this space we're going to put a full cluster stitch. I just did my last shell stitch, so these are my 2 double crochets that we did at the beginning of the row. So we have 2 full shells, and then my double crochet is coming out of the 3rd stitch. So because we have 2 double crochets in this marked stitch, or the 1st stitch, I am going to put a double crochet. Chain 3, and because we only have 1 double crochet in the previous row, that means we need to add a double crochet, and then moving on to the next space to put shells in, and do this in total 5 rows like we did for the front. So this is row 1, row 2. Do 3 more rows after this. I finished my 5 rows. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So you have a choice now. You can do the exact same thing we did on the other side or on the front of the dress, and then sew at the shoulder, or you can continue with me. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to do 2 more rows. So here we got 3, and I am going to do 2 more rows here for the back, and then we're going to do little shoulder straps. So I did my 2 more rows. So if you remember, for the shoulder we left 2 full shells, so you can mark those stitches. So we are going to end in this stitch, and we're going to do the same on the other side. So we have 2 full shells, 1, 2, and we are going to end or start our shoulder strap into this 3rd stitch. Of that shell. All right, so let's turn our work, and we had 2 double crochets here, so we're going to start with a full shell. There we go, and then chain 3, and now let's see how that looks on the front. So if I do a little loop here, that's going to be enough. I'm going to go 1 more row. And a double crochet into the turning chain. Chain 1 and turn. We are going to single crochet into that same stitch. Three, 4, 8, and at the top of chain 3, 9. All right. Looks good. Chain 1 and turn, and do 1, 2. So we got 9 stitches, so we're gonna do 3, chain 3, and skip 3, single crochet into the 4th, and then 1 more, and then into the last one. So now we created a button loop. All right, so now what we can do is we can go around and do single crochet stitches all the way to here. So chain 1 and turn your work sideways. Into that same stitch we're going to do single crochet, and into the stitch we're going to do single crochet, into this little gap, single crochet, so now we came to this gap here, which is the distance between the two parts, which is the front and the back. So what I'm gonna do is I'm going to slip stitch into this very corner stitch, chain 1, and then continue single crochets until I get to the next corner, which is here. So one more stitch, and then we're gonna slip stitch into this space here, and then start single crochets on this other side. I will work over the tail, so again try to work into the stitch whenever possible. So now I came to the top of the shoulder, so there's that stitch marker that we left. So what I'm going to do is I am going to put my hook into the last stitch and through the loop on the stitch marker, remove the stitch marker, and then pull up that loop, and now I'm going to single crochet. So I kind of secured that tail. So that was 1, 2, 8, and our turning chain will be 9. So we got 9 stitches here, chain 1, and into that same stitch we're gonna single crochet, and then do the usual single crochets, 2 per row. So we're approaching the corner, so I'm gonna do 3 single crochet together. So insert your hook into the next stitch and then pull up that yarn into this corner, insert hook and pull up that yarn, and then the very first, or actually that's the middle stitch here into the shell, pull up the third one, and now we have 1, 2, 3, 4 loops on the hook, and pull through all three of them. And so now continue single crochets. Okay, now we're gonna do our 3 single crochet together. So pull up the yarn into this stitch and then right through the center of this little hole, and then find a stitch in here and pull up the yarn. Now you have 4 loops on your hook and pull through all 4 of them. So continue single crochets and into this corner stitch. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So this is our 9th stitch. So I am going to make a single crochet in here, chain 1, and then into that same stitch we're going to do single crochets, 2 and 9. So once we have our 9 single crochets, we're going to slip stitch into the single crochet here and chain 1 and cut our yarn, because if you remember we did single crochet along this side on the front. So now on the back here we started on the wrong side, so you can see the shells are different. So this is the right side, this is the wrong side. So we started this row on the wrong side, so that means I'm gonna have to flip my work and start from the wrong side. So just like on the other side, we're gonna chain 3, and then in this space we're gonna add double crochet, and we're gonna move on and make our 2 regular granny stitches. So we're gonna do this as many rows as we had on the other side. So we had 1, 2, 3, 4 rows, and then we had 2 rows of single crochets. I did my 4 rows, so we're gonna chain 1 and turn, and now we're gonna go start with the same stitch and do 1 single crochet, 8, and into the turning chain we're gonna do 9, chain 1 and turn. So starting in the same stitch, we're gonna do 1, 2, 3 stitches, chain 3, 1, 2, 3, skip 3, and into the 4th do 3 more double crochets or single crochets. So that's our button loop. So we got our 9 single crochets, so now we're gonna have to finish this side. So we're gonna do the corners again, 3 single crochet together here and here. So chain 1, and into that same stitch where the single crochet came out of, do single crochet, one here, and one here. So insert your hook into this stitch, pull up that yarn, go into this empty space, pull up that yarn, and into this stitch, pull up that yarn, and when you have 4 loops on the hook, pull through all 4 of them. And we're gonna slip stitch into this very first single crochet. Chain 1 and cut the yarn. And before we move on to the bottom, there is one unfinished side, which means this side on the back of the dress, starting from where the stitch marker is, just a row of single crochets all the way up, and then slip stitching to this very first chain. So to start work on the bottom, I am going to insert my hook in the corner of one of these squares, and that's on the side of the dress. So when you look at the corner here, there are 3 double crochets, then there is a chain 1 space and 3 double crochets. I'm going to insert my hook and start my yarn or tie my yarn in the middle of those 3 sets of double crochets, and I'm going to work over those tails. So grab that yarn, chain 3, and now do 2 more double crochets to make a granny stitch or shell. Next is this space between the white and the pink yarn, so make 3 double crochets there. Then on the other side as well, where the pink and white yarn meet, regular shell. We come to the next corner right here. And then continue this all the way around until you reach the end. So one granny stitch where the yarns meet, pink and white, and then 2 granny stitches in each of the corners of our little square, so here and here. So I finished my row of granny shells, and let's see where we're at as far as the length of the dress. We were aiming for, I believe, 14 inches or 35 centimeters. So from the top of the shoulder, I now have 13.5 inches, almost 14, and my centimeters are 35. So I am going to stop here, but if you want your dress longer, by all means continue on, add another row. I'm gonna weave in all the ends, and then I'm gonna tie or sew the button here. So this part is optional, so I decided to make this beautiful square, sort of match the diamond, if you will, on the bottom, here on the top. So very easy to make. All you have to do is just continue one more round, and so I'm going to show you this in a different yarn. So slip stitch again, and then bring that pink yarn forward. Make sure the green yarn or teal yarn is on the top, and then slip stitch again, and then start your round with 3 double crochets, working over the teal yarn. In your case, that's going to be white yarn. Chain 1, but we will switch to the teal yarn. The difference in this row is that we're going to be doing 2 shells in this white color. In my case, that's going to be a teal color. Switch the yarns. And now move on to doing the next corner, which switch yarns again, and now do 2 white ones, and then corner, 2 white ones, and corner. So at the end of the row, I have 1 more double crochet to go. I will not switch yarns this time, and I will slip stitch into the top of chain 3 with the same yarn, because I want this accent yarn to continue for the row of single crochets. So you will chain 1, and into that same top of chain 3 single crochet. Into this next stitch, might be a little bit hard to find it, but it's here. We need to have 3 single crochets for each shell, so 2 and then 3. Once you get to chain 1 space, we're going to put 3 single crochets in that same space. So 1, 2, and 3. And now we're going to do 3 single crochets here, here, and here. So each shell must have 3 single crochets in it, and then in each corner we were putting 3 single crochets in chain 1 space from the previous row. In there we're going to put 3 single crochets, and now don't forget this stitch here. So that's stitch number 1 for this shell, 2 and 3, and continue until you reach the end of the row all around. So at the end of the row, I'm going to slip stitch, but I'm going to do invisible slip stitch, and then I also am going to need to leave some tail so that I can sew my little square onto the dress. So I figure we might need 3 times the length of the square. We're going to be going all the way around in each stitch. So the way I'm going to measure it is just kind of loop it around your square. And so now you have, that's one length, and then I will do lengths 3 times more. So 2, and then one more time, 3. So 3 times the length of your total round around the square. So I'm gonna do that here as well. So before cutting, I will just go around. Just want to make sure that I have enough yarn, because there is no worse thing than when you want to do polished finish and then you have to have a knot somewhere in there. So 2 and 3. Okay, so to do the invisible join, thread the yarn into your darning needle. And so now what we're gonna do is look at the very first stitch. So this was a chain 1. This is our very first single crochet. So chain 1 is here, very first single crochet is here. So go under both those loops, pull your yarn through, not too tight, and now you're gonna go and enter this stitch, the last loop or the far loop, but I'm gonna do that through a couple of loops going backwards. Okay, so pull your yarn, and now we have that stitch that looks exactly like the rest of the stitches, no knots. So now that that is, kind of pull it to the side, adjust so it's the same length as every other stitch. Amazing. All right, so before I continue, I am going to weave in these 2 ends. Before I start, I always sort of secure my piece of top fabric to the bottom so that my square doesn't move. So I'm happy with the placement here. You know, I'm looking at the neck opening and I'm right where I should be. So I would just grab my yarn and don't split the yarn. And just start picking up stitches, like I said, without splitting the yarn. Feel that this is a very large needle and very large eye. Just feel with your needle where the hole is underneath. So bring your yarn forward. And then we can start sewing. It's very important that we don't sew too tight those stitches. We don't want the fabric to start puckering. So I'm going to do loose stitches, and we're going to be working just underneath these 2 loops. sort of to hide our yarn. Make sure you're not catching the front and the back of the dress. So we're going to catch every stitch, just to make sure that this stays nice and flat. Very simple. At the end of my stitching, I'm going to get my yarn back to the back. That won't work, so I'm going to do one more stitch. And now bring it back. So let's remove this guiding yarn, which we don't need anymore. All right, so now we can flip it back. That looks pretty good. And what I would suggest is going under the pink yarn and grabbing a couple of strands of white underneath it, making sure that your needle doesn't show on the other end. All right, so I'm trying, this is my white yarn here, so I'm gonna have to work along that side with those stitches. So just go in between those stitches. So what I'm gonna do is remove my needle, grab my crochet hook, and I'm gonna do a couple of chains now. Three chains, tighten, and we're done. There. So let's look at this beauty. I found these buttons, I believe, on Amazon. They're cute. And also white buttons would work really well here. But I didn't have any that look kind of cute, just plain white buttons. So thank you for watching, and until our next project together, stay well, everyone.